Let me share a small secret, an embarrassing truth about myself. I used to live like a lifeboat. You know, a lifeboat is a passive object, always floating, being tossed by the wind, always needing someone drowning to prove its existence and worth. I gave everything: time, money, emotional support, absolute loyalty. And what I got back was cold indifference. Do you recognize yourself in that story? Too many good men enter relationships thinking love is purchased through effort. We believe that if we do more, she will appreciate more. But the brutal truth is, when you turn yourself into an endless supply, you are sending a frequency. I have nothing better to do than serve her needs. And that is where respect begins to die. We need to understand the lighthouse law. We were born to be a lighthouse, self-illuminated, grounded, unmoving, guiding the way, needing no permission from the waves or the ships. But because of the fear of abandonment, we choose to live like a lifeboat, always available and dependent on others to validate our worth. The most painful thing is not betrayal. It's that when a woman stops valuing you, what truly hurts her ego has nothing to do with your actions. It's when you stop orbiting her universe. That's when she realizes the power she thought she held was just an illusion. Ask yourself right now, how much of my own worth did I discount this week just to buy temporary validation? Identifying that number is the first step to reclaiming your power. Part 1. The rearview mirror. Mistake. Breaking the need to prove yourself. Our biggest mistake is turning ourselves into a rearview mirror. When she looks in, she doesn't see you. She only sees herself reflected back. She sees her power, her influence over your emotions. Every time you overreact to disrespect, every time you send a long text to explain, every time you argue to prove you were right, you solidify that illusion. You confirm to her, you have emotional power over me. We do this because of a deep wound I call the forgotten hero syndrome. We believe if we sacrifice, give everything, we will finally be validated and saved from the fear of not being enough. This wound often comes from past relationships, from childhood failures. We carry it into the relationship, hoping she will heal it. I remember the early years of my career. I worked relentlessly, trying to please every client, every boss. I wore my exhaustion as a badge of honor. But it didn't earn respect. It just earned me more work. It wasn't until I started saying no, setting boundaries, and only focusing on projects I truly believed in, that respect finally showed up. Relationships are the same. You don't need a woman to complete your hero's journey. You need a purpose. Instead of trying to prove your value to her, start living it. The lighthouse doesn't try to prove its light. It simply shines. List 3 self-deprecating habits, such as texting too fast, canceling personal plans, or constantly arguing for recognition. Commit to stopping those 3 things for the next 48 hours and observe the change in your emotional state. Part 2. The absolute power of silence, creating cosmic space. Now we move into the most potent part, the power of silence. Most men confuse silence with weakness or sulking, but silence in this context is an act of absolute sovereignty. When she disrespects you, she expects a reaction, argument, explanation, anger. That is the fuel she uses to maintain her emotional control. When you meet disrespectful behavior with calm silence, you create a cosmic space between the two of you. In that space, she no longer hears your anger. She is forced to hear her own conscience. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance. She can't blame you for overreacting. She can't twist your words. She can't play the victim. She is left only with her own behavior staring back at her. Your silence says, I am too valuable to argue for my place. My friend David dealt with his wife's constant criticism of his work. Instead of arguing, David chose silence. He didn't respond to the criticisms. He just used that energy to prove his worth through results. 3 months later, he got a promotion. His wife stopped criticizing. She started seeking his approval. David didn't need a single word to win that battle. He used the silent action to protect his dignity. Silence requires discipline. It is proof that you would rather protect your inner peace than win a meaningless argument. Transformational exercise. The self-control muscle drill. The stop before you start drill. When you feel the urge to start an argument or a long text, write it all out on paper, but absolutely do not send it. After 24 hours, read it. You will see 99% of what you intended to say was unnecessary and how not speaking protected your energy. Part 3. Stoic Philosophy of Scarcity. Tap water versus rare gem. Now we need to apply Stoic philosophy to your availability. Most men mistake being available for loyalty. They think, I'm always here. I'm the constant. She will appreciate it. But this fundamentally violates the basic principle of value. What is always available is taken for granted. Stoicism teaches us, focus on what is within your control. You cannot control her appreciation, but you absolutely control where you place your time and energy. A man with purpose cannot be as available as tap water, always flowing, always there, always forgotten. He must be like a rare gem in the desert, scarce, hard to find, and worth the journey to seek. Scarcity creates value. Endless availability creates boredom and disrespect. Is your endless availability a love strategy or a fear strategy to avoid being abandoned? When you stop canceling everything for her text, you are not punishing her. You are honoring your life. You are telling the universe, my time is valuable. It must be protected. Women are not attracted to submission. They are attracted to purpose, boundaries, and self-respect. When you set boundaries, you are not testing her. You are defining the standard that anyone who enters your life must meet. That is true strength. Transformational exercise. The Independence Plan. The Block the Discount. Exercise. Make a list of 3 activities critical to your personal growth, such as going to the gym 3 times a week, reading 1 chapter daily, or completing a personal project. Mark them as non-negotiable. Do not cancel or postpone them for anyone else. Treat them as the most important appointments of your week. Part 4. Outgrowing her. Building the spirit of self-completion. Most men get stuck here because they confuse the fear of starting over with loyalty. They delay building their lighthouse because they fear losing the lifeboat. Outgrowing her is not a revenge tactic. It is the redirecting of all that wasted energy spent chasing and proving yourself into building the spirit of self-completion. You must become so whole, so grounded and so complete that, whether she stays or leaves, you remain a solid structure. When you focus on your goals, your health, your financial growth, she will see a man who is no longer revolving around her orbit. This hurts her the most because you have proven that her disrespect did not halt your evolution. The story of Alex, the ship that returned. I could tell you hundreds of stories about this rebound effect, but Alex's story is the most powerful. Alex was left by his wife because he was too available, too predictable. He didn't argue. He just executed his 90-day manifesto, 100% focus on his business and running a marathon. He went radio silent on unnecessary contact. He didn't do it to make her jealous. He did it to save himself. 6 months later, she came back, not with a casual text, but with a call full of anxiety and admiration. She said, I was wrong. You became a different person. But what changed for Alex? It wasn't that she returned. It was that he no longer needed her to feel complete. He was too busy being his lighthouse that the old ship was no longer a priority. Her absence became irrelevant. The challenge. Your greatness does not require this woman's approval. Ask yourself, if she were out of the picture, what are the 3 things I would build with the energy I wasted chasing her? Part 5. Healing the root wound, the father's love. To complete the journey from lifeboat to lighthouse, we must confront the root of the need for validation. Why do we pursue approval? Often we carry a wound from childhood. Psychology calls it the deficit of unconditional recognition, especially from the paternal figure. We try to find that approval in the grown woman, hoping she will fill the void we never got. This is the plain truth. No woman can heal the wound of paternal non-acceptance in you. Your act of not needing to prove yourself to her is an act of self-healing. It is you finally granting yourself the acceptance you craved all along. Connection to Eastern philosophy. Think about inner strength. In Buddhism, it is the detachment from attachment, attachment to the relationship's outcome, attachment to her opinion, attachment to the idea that you must be valued. The withdrawal is not quitting. It is letting go of the attachment to a result outside your control. Forgive yourself for living like a lifeboat. Love yourself through the process of building the lighthouse, because unconditional love must start from within. Transformational exercise. The letter to the future. The letter to the future. Exercise. Write a letter. Not to her, but to yourself 1 year from now. Describe the man you will have become. What does he focus on? What does he refuse? What does he honor about himself? This letter is your lighthouse blueprint. Seal it and schedule a date to open it. We have moved from availability to self-completion. What I want you to internalize most. You cannot expect others to highly value something you discount every day. If you continue to live as a lifeboat, you will always be tossed by the waves of others. The goal is not to make her return, but to become self-complete. A solid structure. Remember, when she doesn't value you, the most powerful move is not words, but removing the privilege of being needed. Want you to join the community of men who have decided to build their lighthouse hit. Subscribe and turn on notifications to receive more of this energy and philosophy. Now take action. Share your commitment to your 90-day manifesto in the comments below. How will you own your water in the next 90 days? I will be reading and coaching directly. Stop trying to change her mind. Change your life instead. That is the real victory. That is self-respect. And that is the only way to become the man you were meant to be. I'll see you in the next video.